Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, guys, as always, please subscribe to both channels as we're trying to keep them a little bit more delegated to certain things. And so on EEARTS, again, we're going to be focusing in on the mysteries and the earth changes as well. Last video, we're talking about a hidden underground city in the Grand Canyon, as well as over towards Death Valley. Lots of fun stuff. You can see we've been retitling and some of the playlists, as you can see here, so it'll make it a little easier to go ahead and do your binge watching. And as always, it's getting interesting out there. Every day it gets like more and more wild and crazy. We're talking about climate lockdowns and inner city border points coming to some places. Again, you know, I think it's going to be a case where everywhere around the globe is affected by all these changes. Obviously, there's no way you can escape it, but some places will be a little bit better than others, but every place is going to have its challenge at the same time.
Always. So this is why we really have to create that place for ourselves. We have to be the eye of the storm. It's possible we can do that because that's where it's quiet.
Very true. And so we want to thank our Patreons for your support. We couldn't do it without your support there, or over on Ko-Fi as well. Ko-Fi connects to PayPal, where you could do a one-time or you could do monthly support as well. And we're going to be checking out the storm, the earth changes, and here we start in Peru. This was a graduation party in Peru with some kids dancing, just dancing, having a good old time. Now, thankfully, no major injuries. It collapsed because of a sinkhole. It was a sinkhole that was developing underground. You know, again, Peru is one of those places on the planet that has so much hidden history, so many mysteries. You know, I have friends from Peru that just, you know, when they were growing up, they would see these lights go up into the mountains, and they knew them to be beings. They knew them to be beings. I mean, they just knew there were people that were not from Earth that were visiting Earth and going and visiting other people that are inside the Earth. You know, this is the type of things that they don't want getting out. And this is why indigenous peoples, you know, Native Americans and the like, all the Aboriginal people around the world are always targeted, because they got to whitewash that history away and, you know, replant that in the brain with the history that they're giving us, which is revisionist history, which is constantly revised. Just as the science is constantly rewritten, here you go, our history is constantly being revised too.
It's really every day, you know, I'll see something about the revisionist history and it just sort of takes me back a little. I'm like, whoa, I'm just really shocked that that information went from this to that. But anymore, it's a little bit less of a shock. And, you know, I do feel so sorry for those kids. It's going to give them some weird PTSD. And I was thinking, gosh, they're going to be walking on eggshells for quite a while. That's a lot of trauma just falling in a hole.
Absolutely. So we have nearly 2,000 flights canceled due to a once-in-a-generation winter storm. And it's not going to be about the accumulations. It's about the sudden freeze. Nasty, nasty temperatures. Look at this. This is current. This is for 9 a.m. Eastern time today. Look at some of these. 52. Wow. Negative 52. This is your wind chill out there. And man, that's in like right on the border of Wyoming and Colorado. Negative 49, negative 42. Look at Nebraska. Bundle up out there. Hey, Alicia.
Hi, Alicia.
Yeah, Alicia is one of our wonderful family members that we love a lot. And the Dakota's 56 below, 52 below, 56 below over here in Montana. We could see that dipping on down. Look at Kansas, you know, 38 below, 38 below, 34. Again, this is not the conclusion. It's coming and sinking farther and farther south, all the way into the panhandle of Texas. The panhandle of Texas, you get 26 below wind chill. New Mexico, 31 below wind chill. this is very, very deadly. You can see it swooping into Oklahoma here. Very deadly cold. And again, what we're getting warned about is potential for blackouts. Of course, Texas remembers what happened a couple of years ago when the grid was going down. There's no reason for any of that, honestly. Here we are, and we'll talk more about the geopolitical over on Evolutionary. Money literally being burnt and sent, out the window in massive droves to death and destruction. And meanwhile, we don't have basic necessities for our own people. And really, we need to look at things in a bigger perspective. Now, we've gotten a lot of information from channeling and from meditation, and we're trying to decide how to integrate it and get it across. As the guides, when they were giving this information, they were basically kind of telling us to gird our hearts, and prepare, because we are in for rough seas, and we haven't seen anything yet from Mother Nature, because she's really holding back. Again, there is what's natural and what's naturally going to come to pass, and then there's the artificial component to everything, the technological component to everything. So we are going to be heading into a period where Mother Nature won't be able to hold back as much as she has been holding back. And then again, as I've shared with you guys before, history shows us that there is this almost immediate karmic effect to the negative emotions put out by war, for instance, as well as just, everything that goes along with it, the hatred, the anger, the fear. All those things have an effect on the planet itself.
Mm-hmm. It does. It makes me so sad to know that Mother Earth is holding back with all of her might, because what mother would knowingly hurt her children? It's just so sad. But at some point, she is going to have to break free from these energies that are being so forceful, and just try to imagine that. It's sad, but it is.
One of the things I think that has been a revelation for me, and I'm still processing it to a point. Perhaps deep down it was always there, but now it's really kind of come to the forefront. When we talk about living in the end times, and people will talk about living in the end times, and you're thinking of it again from a biblical perspective, because again, 2/3 of the world has been brought up with the Abrahamic traditions. At least 2/3, if not more, of the world. And really, who hasn't heard of a biblical verse, or even something from the Quran? As again, about 35% of the world is Christian, and another 30%, a little bit more, is Islamic. Judaism is less than 0.5%, but it's part of the root, part of the root from which those sprung. Because again, there's other things we can see that have affected what we have today. So we look through a certain lens. But the realization, again, that there's wars and rumors of wars, always, they never stop. They never stop. And in fact, we never stop living in the end times. Our parents lived in the end times. Our grandparents lived in the end times. Our great-grandparents lived in the end times. And it goes on and on and on, because the end times are a tool by the system that is. And so every generation has thought they were the last generation. And in some ways they were, because everything is constantly being reset. That great R-E-S period E period T period, trying to keep the AI on its toes, is an ongoing thing. It never stops in the dark age. And the Kali Yuga is not the entirety of the time that we're under this dark system. It also does bleed into the Bronze Ages on both sides of it. And in fact, even in the Silver Age, some of that darkness starts to creep in and starts to gain control. That's why when we look at Atlantean culture, it was affected, and it was not a golden age. It wasn't a golden age civilization. Whereas when we think back to Lemuria and Mu, that really truly was more of a golden age civilization, transmitting into, as we went down through the descending cycle, into the Atlantean age, which is more of a silver and bronze.
Mm-hmm. I mean, every era that we are in, there's an abundance of light, and then there's a lack of light. So when we are organizing ourselves and our energy body, we are able to then move more toward the light of truth about who we are, and then we are less able to be utilized as the controller's tools.
So this is a picture of New York, 1914, with a cruel winter storm and a cruel winter itself, where the number of horses would dwindle from as many as 200,000 to just a few hundred because of the extremes of the weather. Taking out, and again, horses were not the only way of getting around, but they were a main way of getting around. And here we are today again. This was Spokane, Washington in 1996. An ice storm, and there was the sound of trees breaking apart or falling apart, and it wasn't just trees, because again, flash freezing. We run into all these things, and this is one of the most brutal Arctic cold outbreaks on record. And again, the records are always being, expunged. They get washed away, and we don't realize that the exact same thing might have happened a little while ago. And again, when we look, who's in control of the science? Because we could just go and look at ice cores and things like that. Yeah, but who's really looking at those ice cores? Question that. Who's looking at the ice cores? Do you know them? What are their ties? Who's funding them? Everyone, every single person we see, we should always be questioning everything. Don't just trust anything blindly. You got to kind of weigh it. What does it feel to you? Does this feel honest and truthful? Or is there some deception there? Again, it's up to each person to really, determine for yourselves. As you can see, the cold coming on down. And of course, this beautiful magenta is extremely cold. It's definitely life-threatening. Absolutely. Wind chills are hitting extremely dangerous levels. -70 Fahrenheit in Wyoming. This certainly feels a little orchestrated. The same year that we have all this increase, this is actually from a highway patrolman's car in Wyoming. Look at that. That's insane. Yeah, and this is at a time when heating costs are through the roof and people are struggling. Is that just a coincidence? Is it really just a coincidence? It's amazing how all these coincidences come together. And here you have a winter storm of a decade. This is Montana. And there is wind effects, which, here, I'll give it to you guys. It just sounds so ominous out there. And it is. And, this is one of those things that I think, always understood at my core, is that, our tendency is going to be towards colder. So, of course, we have climate change, global warming, and the reality is it's the opposite direction. And the cold is much more devastating, and it really does affect the growing in a much more negative way than, if we go the opposite route. Of course, extremes are what's devastating, and we have extremes everywhere. And here again, you see cars out there that can't see, so this could be a life-threatening situation, absolutely. If you can't see so that you can only go like 1 mile an hour, or you just even stop, well, how long are you going to be out there? Again, make sure your gas tanks are topped off. Have ways to keep yourself warm in the car. and all the basic equipment. You got to make sure that you have the car outfitted properly.
Definitely have backups to your backups. And one thing that I just can't stop thinking about, of course, we need to keep ourselves warm and our children warm, but our pets, oh my gosh, just simple things like having to go outside to the bathroom. We were talking to a family member last night, and she went ahead and picked up some puppy pads, and just in case her little girl couldn't go outside, in fear of her paws just freezing. I mean, these are serious things we need to think about, and the cattle and the horses. And let's definitely put out our positive intention that animals are going to be okay.
And this person drove into what is clearly a storm front. When he first looked at his thermostat, it was 38. By the time I got my phone to record it, it dropped to 32 that quick. And then down to 19 in 90 seconds. So you lost 19 degrees in 90 seconds. And then he got to his destination, it was 17. Well, that's starting to feel a little bit like the day after tomorrow, isn't it? This is starting to feel like you have some sort of, something major going on in the high atmosphere that's creating this. And again, we have tens of thousands of satellites up there that we don't know what they're doing at all. No, the public doesn't need to know. This is part of that realization. All that military money that's spent globally, it's not about keeping any of us safe. It's about keeping the system safe. Major and anomalous storm system produce widespread disruptive, potentially crippling impacts. This is what we've been talking about. So again, guys, stay safe out there. This is definitely something that can be very, very life-threatening, absolutely very scary. And so be as prepared as you can. Don't take chances. Again, don't take chances, just like we've talked about since 2017 with, hey, well, I've passed this flooded intersection before. It doesn't mean you can now. It's the same thing with all the extremes, because what we have gotten is that, things are going to be ramping up a lot. And really, 2023 is going to be a year of continued accelerated changes, both geopolitically, also with the earth changes, also with all the augmentation, and also economically, we're going to see the same trend. Cold records shattered across Canada, driving energy usage to all-time highs when it's at all-time record high prices. This means it's going to be devastating people's finances. And of course, food is through the roof. We were just talking to somebody who was like, well, I wanted to get some eggs, but at $6.50 a dozen for organic, people are making these decisions. And we did go out and do a little stock up yesterday. So, you had 300 oil workers that were trapped on a North Sea oil rig as well. Think about all those people that have to be out there. It's crazy. I mean, the records, the temperatures that we're seeing, these temperatures are blowing records apart, going back since we've been keeping track of these things in this current modern age, which again, that's what we got to keep in mind, this current modern age. And so, we know about North America. Over in Japan, Hijiori, Japan loses power after 7.5 feet of snow hits. Japan's been buried as well. And Iceland, you have severe weather warnings, well, to be expected in Iceland again. But this is all part of this. Just, as you can see, no data available over there. You really got to brace yourself for this winter. We were told there's going to be a cold, dark winter, and then we were just told by the president of Serbia, it's not this one. Well, this one's coming off with a bang. What's the next one going to look like? That's the question, right? Tropical cyclone warning issued for the coast of Western Australia and Northern Territory as well. New tropical cyclone brewing over the Timor Sea near the coast of Australia's Northern Territory and Western Australia. So as a result, the Australian Bureau of Meteorology has issued a tropical cyclone warning. as they should be heading into summer, we're still hearing from a lot of people that it's, at least in the New South Wales area and some other areas, that it's still very, very cold. And here we have floods leave at least 4 people lost after more than 500 millimeters, or 19.7 inches of rain in 24 hours in Thailand. Thailand, Malaysia have been hit with devastating floods. Again, we send our prayers out to everybody there. And what does it do? Again, it's besides wiping out people's homes, it's also wiping out crops. And again, adding to what's coming. This is in Brazil, severe floods and landslides. That's a city there that's buried in water, as you can see here. It's not a good situation. And this is global. So we can see how a mud flood can be an ongoing process, not just like thinking of biblical type, it's the flood of Noah or Utnapishtim. And again, at some point, we're going to delve deeper down that rabbit hole, because that is a curious rabbit hole. And I don't mean the fact that the biblical story was taken from the 1500 to 2000 year older Sumerian story, but the fact about the beings involved in it. Significant slope failure. This is in India, a landslide, and sometimes it amazes me how people don't move out of the way quicker, although these people were okay. Still, it's like when you see something start to come and progress and come down, get out of the way. And some people get this, I don't know if it's deer in the headlights syndrome or what, but they're just staring, watching, and it's like, back up the car, get in and get out of there. Asteroid 2022 Y01 flew past Earth at just 0.07 lunar distance. So this was a real close call one. This was the 118th known asteroid to fly past Earth within 1 lunar distance. We had the revelation that, the moon is actually in the Earth's atmosphere. They told us that like 3 years ago. They said, by the way, the moon's in our atmosphere. Because, that wasn't the science that we were given before then. But then again, the moon is not our natural satellite. And I think more and more people are waking up to this fact. And yes, we never did go to the moon like we are told we went to the moon. Yeah, that was all basically a Stanley Kubrick type 2001 Space Odyssey film, Hollywood stage. But that doesn't mean that other beings aren't up there right now. No. And again, everything that we see is an illusion. Our sky is an illusion. And that might sound crazy, but, hey, when you see people that say, look, we found a planet up there. Look at this. There's a planet up there. Yeah, there's many planets. We've gotten from the guides, there's 39 or 40 planets in our solar system. Not the ones we're just told about. No, there's many, many more. Now, many of these are 4D planets. And guess what? We're dipping our toes in 4D now. So we have gotten that within 3 to 5 years, many people will be seeing, if not the majority, will be seeing planets right there. And some of them might look as big as the moon, and they've been there the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, there's a lot of channels that do definitely catch these planets on film, but it's going to become more and more and more of a common occurrence. And once again, science is going to have to rewrite all of the books and say, we're sorry, we're wrong. But how many chances are we going to give them to get things right before we just simply find the information ourselves?
Okay, so you got to recognize that, well, really, what are we getting with mainstream science? We're getting controlled disinformation. This is all about keeping humanity in a perpetual state of not really understanding what's going on. That's the bottom line. It's all about perpetual disinformation and damage control. So yes, 3 to 5 years time, you'll be seeing planets up there that are, the night sky's going to blow your mind away. it's not going to be the night sky we grew up with, because this has been a hologram the whole time, superimposed on the sky itself. And so this technology is obviously very, very advanced. But then again, think about what technology would be available if they didn't hide it from us. Oh, we just had that fusion discovery. Guess what? As we're going into all the, climate lockdowns and stuff. Whoa, we just did this. You guys are so full of, yeah. Okay, here we have a fireball. This is looking north from Anchorage, Alaska, 5:47 a.m. on the 21st. And there are going to be some sightings, and we do have a meteorite storm coming in. Unprecedented Christmas weather origin. This is from Strange Sounds. Could it be HAARP? They're going to be bouncing signals off asteroid on December 27th. In new NASA experiment to prepare the globally anticipated 2029 encounter with the asteroid Apophis. Oh.
Now that sounds very interesting. And why do they always use a lot of our history stories to name certain things? It's not just because it sounds cool. There's a reason.
Absolutely. E-A-O.
Yes.
The A is Apophis. And I'm just going to leave that out there and see who gets that. Okay. So, yeah. And again, this is the harp that angels don't play. But there's more than one location, too. And so if they're telling us this, if they're just talking about this, again, then they want to condition us to get used to certain ideas. And yeah, the guides have said that there are 3 incoming objects which do pose an issue. And, again, one of the things we got was what some others have seen is that, again, you can, when you have that type of advanced technology, and you could also look at things like the Galactic Federation has a timeline generator, and they share with us what they see in the timeline generator at times. Everything is not fixed. And as our consciousness changes and as more people wake up, we can shift the future. That's the bottom line. They want you thinking, oh, no, the guy in the cloud, he's made up his mind. This is how things are going off. A, B, C, D, etc., etc. There's nothing you can do to stop it. That's coming from the draconian Anunnakian system. No, it's not said at all. Every day it's changing. Every day possibilities and probabilities are being computed by the AI, and every day those numbers are different.
Mm-hmm. Every day, but then you have to ask yourself, well, why do we even bother to go to the numbers to look at it? The reason why we bother is because the information is pertinent to a certain level. You're usually able to pick apart this information and find out where things are falling apart, and then go within, get your own information and understand things the way they truly are. Once we understand things to their core, well, then finally we can start making positive decisions for ourselves instead of decisions based on entities who are only giving their story just to conform us into one thing, one shape or one form for their own benefit.
So, yeah, there was one person that made the comment, look, you have links there that go to Godlike Productions. That's a conspiracy forum that's controlled by the FBI and CIA. Well, we know that. Again, with any link, we're not saying that we believe this. We're just saying you always got to decipher for yourself. So, again, if you truly want to be developing your ability to discern, you have to get off of all the negative things that they're getting people are addicted to. The simple sugars, the GMO foods, again, the frequencies, and, what we've gotten from the guides, too, is unplug as much as possible and totally get yourself, in nature as much as you can, away from all the signals as much as you can, because, again, we're swimming in a soup of EMF. And this soup is affecting us. It's affecting us every single day. It's lowering our immune systems. It's making us susceptible to disease. and also susceptible to that dark influence. So, yes, again, there are demonic influences. That they are very, very real, but not every extraterrestrial is a demon. There is life out there. There's tons of life out there. There's far more life out there than there is on Earth. Obviously, because this whole multiple universes, or if you want to, term it a universe, but then recognize that our universe, what we think is a universe, is just a single cell, one tiny little cell inside the bigger universe. However you want to term it. Again, it's all semantics. When we talk about advanced beings, they don't use verbiage. It's all basically impressions that are given psychically from one to another. So they don't even use words. Words and communicating the way we do is archaic. And it is something we don't necessarily rely on in a golden age. And so we have a cute little 2.5, which if you call an earthquake cute, over in Ohio. You get some of these. Ohio is not known for its earthquakes, but every now and then we will see a handful a year, maybe, that come out like that. And we do see still some swarming activity, but it seems to be calming down a little bit. There's 20 of them. There was maybe about 75. It was the high I saw after that 6.4 off the coast, just off the coast of Northern California. So what Cindy received this morning was basically a vision of a volcano going off and then warfare at the same time, and was given a clarity on time that she's not usually given. This is something more substantial. There's on the evolutionary one we're going to share also, there's something sobering to share with you guys as well. And so what we want to do is, this is put out there so we can all put out our intentions, that the dark stuff doesn't have to manifest the way it is currently on this current timeline. So not that we want to give power to it, but if you don't bring out the fact that this might happen, just like if you don't step off the track, you might get squished by that train that's 5 miles down the road right now. You can't see it, but it's coming. So if you don't get off the track, you're going to get smushed, or worse, you're going to get sent in little bits everywhere. It's just one of those things that when you know something is coming on a certain timeline, then we can shift it, because we've already shifted this. And so let's preface it by saying we were doing meditation, was about 3 or 4 days ago now. And all of a sudden, Cindy just blurted out, "Did you feel that?" And I had noticed something, and I said, "A lightning, like a lightening, as in, removing some of the heavy vibrations." She said, "Yeah, she got it too. We both got it at the same time." And so this is what it feels like when timeline shifts. So it feels like we have a little bit more time than what was impending, but at the same time, there is the potential for some major, major issues coming up shortly. And, so that's, again, where we put it out there to the collective. And yes, even those people that are still what we would call sleepwalking zombies or sheeple, or however you want to term it, they might not totally understand what's going on, but they might have something clicking subconsciously, where they're no longer going to be putting out the signal that the controllers do. The reason why the controllers give us all these prophecies is that they want us to fulfill them for them.
Right. And what's truly going on with all of these happenings is it is a destiny. There is a destiny in sight. And we need to look at that, and we need to say, okay, well, this is what's going to change. Well, what can I do if it's just destiny? Why should I bother? And the reality of it is we get to choose the path. We get to choose the path to the new creation, to the new world. And if we want a softer, gentler path, then we need to put that in our mind's eye and start creating it for ourselves, because we are co-creative beings. We can do this. And the more people that know that, the better. The more people that can be woken up, the better things can be, and we can create that better path.
And so what you saw was basically major volcanic activity, new major volcanic activity at the same time as she's seeing war ongoing. And so what she was given, because she saw this one, which is in some ways even more unusual, because usually the war stuff, it's stuff you can't really receive so much. Right. But you said it was written in ink.
You know, the timeline that we're looking at was really strange. So I was shown a volcano, and it looked very similar. I don't want to scare anybody, and I know a lot of volcanoes look like Mount Shasta, but that's the information that I have to convey to you. There was a lot of pine trees, and in the back it looked like Mount Shasta, and written over it, so weird, was 1.5 years. I never ever get information that, I mean, it's super rare. It's so rare, I don't even mention, I don't even talk about it. So when I do get information like that, I definitely stand and I pay attention, because it was, written in black ink. It's like, well, what does all this stuff mean? I don't know what you guys are picking up, but Mike's always really good at helping me decipher these visions, and we can all do it. We can all help one another. And then there was an overlay of war and chaos with that information. So it was, I didn't like it. It's not like I just take this information and go scare people with it. I do feel like I have an obligation. There's a reason why I get this information, and there's a reason why I'm sitting here today and you're listening to me today. Let's try to change that timeline, or not the timeline, but let's try to change the destiny, that things might be softer.
Yeah, and again, so what I think that you're getting is maybe the potential for maybe something in the Pacific Northwest to go. Now, it could also, it could be in Alaska, because when you talk about, again, these different mountains, and, for instance, let's just pick 3 of them that come to mind right away. This is Mount Rainier. Again, it doesn't look like it's totally dissimilar to when we look at Shasta or we look at Mount St. Helens, so do you get anything vibrationally?
I'm not, but what I am getting is curious is when I look at the volcano, that there's no snow, it's brown.
Okay. So yeah, but that's also because you're getting in 1.5 years, so it's June.
Yep. Yeah, so there we got that problem too.
Yeah, it's heading into summer. So yeah, it could be, and we've been wondering, at what point does the Pacific Northwest go off? What maybe Mount St. Helens would be the most likely one, but it could be Rainier, it could be Shasta even. If Shasta's still active, again, and it might even be that it's up in Alaska where it's so active. But again, 1.5 years, that's curious, because yeah. So, and when does that bring us to? Well, that brings us to 2024, and so, again, from what we've gotten, I do feel that 2024 is the year of absolute intensity. 2024 feels almost like the peak and pinnacle. 2024 riding into 2025. It's the peak and the pinnacle of this part. We do feel that when we get to 2030, things get softer and gentler, and it's almost as if the back has broken on the system. And yeah, the system may still be in place, and maybe if you are in certain countries, it's going to be still very difficult to do things, but in other countries, it'll be more like life getting settled into a new normal, because we're never going back to where we were. You always are moving forward, and even when we come into these cycles, it's not like it's point on a circle, it's a point on a spiral. Again, double helix, or maybe 6 pairs of double helix. again. So it does feel that there are major, real Earth changes coming, because again, they're trying to trigger the major Earth changes right now with technology. They're trying to, and Mother Earth is again trying to give us as much time to get ourselves ready. This little guy's ready. This little guy's ready to lead Santa's team.
Give this guy a red button nose. Oh my gosh, take that picture and put a red honker on that. That is so adorable. Oh, I can't get enough of that. Okay, trigger warning, cuteness overload, you guys. Cuteness overload.
Absolutely. So again, the intention, let's put it out there that things, as far as the awakening of humanity, increases significantly, because the faster we can awaken, again, the entirety of the problem is in the system. The entirety of the problem comes from the control grid that's on the Earth itself. We could alleviate so much right away. I mean, if all of a sudden we had all global leadership step down, truly get out of the way, we could avert so much. I mean, we could so quickly manifest into much more of a heaven on earth. They are the entirety of the problem.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I was just going to say, they won't have anyone to lead if we simply stop following. It'll take all the wind out of their sail.
There you go. And, that is a simple solution. But, again, they are betting on the fact that they have us all so deeply entrenched in their system that we won't know how to do that. Well, again, get as self-sufficient as possible. That's the most important thing. Put yourself in a position to get as much self-sufficiency as possible. And every person's it's gonna look different for every person. And, for some, there's many we know, they're building from scratch. They're literally putting together cabins on raw land and living off of collected rainwater and, solar panels and basically keeping warm with generators right now. We have family members that are doing that right now. We have one brave lady, our little lioness out there, who is, living in an RV with her pups. And, here she is. We just said, "Are you sure you're going to be okay?" She's like, "Yeah." She's got backup for her generator. She's going to be okay. She's going to keep herself going because she had enough money to get herself like 5 acres in the middle of the woods and left L.A., that's the L.A. area. And she's doing it. This is a single lady, and I don't want to give away ages, but, our age group. And she's doing it by herself. Talk about guts. Talk about, brave pioneering spirit.
We are just so proud of her. Good job. Good job. And, we all need to cheer one another on as needed, when needed. So ultimately we can I think everyone that wants out of this mess should have an option to get out of this mess. But for right now, let's look at those little puppies. Is that a kitten? I can't tell if that's a kitten or a puppy, but my gosh, look at how he's cuddled up underneath the softest part of that puppy. That's precious.
Before we go, I just want to share with you guys, the guides have also told us that, like, if you're worried about paying your taxes per se, so like say you had a piece of land that was paid off, that's ideal. And you're just really concerned, well, are they going to force us to, they feel that for the next couple years anyway, you're good. You're going to be able to still pay your taxes without being part of the system. But again, it depends on where you are. Because if you are in one of those states that looks a lot more like what you see going on in some countries like the UK and Canada and Australia, where we have so many family members that are wonderful people we love, deeply. There are some states in the U.S. that are going to look a lot more like that. There are some states, that are going to look a lot more rebellious and are not going to go along with things. And even just locally, there's going to be some counties that refuse to go along with things that are put down at a state level. So, know your surroundings, know where you can have the most amount of freedom, and then claim your freedom yourself.
Definitely. We're definitely not financial advisors. If you can pay your taxes, do pay your taxes and just keep going along that path until ...
Well, and when she says that too, we have to distinguish between, local taxes and, that big entity that's over in DC, because you got to recognize the entity in DC is not going to be there much longer. And that doesn't mean, stop paying, the Fed, because again, the Fed has a history of coming and locking people up and knocking on doors. And we could say, look at what happened to Bill Cooper. He got a knock on his door. What was the knock for? Well, what was it really for? That's the question, because it was under the auspices of tax evasion, but he ended up with a heavy metal in the chest, and he is no longer with us. So again, you got to work on that intuition, and we're not recommending anything per se as experts in anything per se. We're just telling you what we feel, what we are getting, and for you to use your discernment and listen to your own guides, listen to your own inner wisdom, and bundle up, because it's going to be a chilly one.
Indeed. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.